Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have another book review for you and it is Her Radiant Curse by Elizabeth Lim. Elizabeth Lim is the author of the Six Crimson Cranes duology, that's the Six Crimson Cranes and Heart of the Sun Warrior. I have reviewed both of those links are above and below me now. And this is a prequel to the Six Crimson Cranes. This is the story of our protagonist's stepmother and how she ended up the way she is. And it also, if you haven't seen my review on The Dragon's Promise, actually cleared up some problems and issues I had with that book because I absolutely adored The Six Crimson Cranes. I read it so quickly. I think I read it in 4 days. I just really enjoyed it. It was so easy and light. And The Dragon's Promise, although I finished it really quickly, there were bits that just felt disconnected or just didn't quite work for me. But after reading this, they now feel like they'd work for me a bit more. So it actually made me want to reread the whole series, knowing now what I know from this book. A better one than Dragon's Promise. But first of all, just look how pretty it is. It's so gorgeous. Like the others, it's just white behind the dust sleeve, but it is beautiful. And we have a map. You know I love a book with a map. So as always, for my book reviews, I'll read you guys the blurb first. Before we get into that, don't forget if you like what you see to subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Blurby time! Chani was not born a monster, but when her own father offers her in sacrifice to the demon witch, she is forever changed. Cursed with a serpent's face, Chani is the exact opposite of her beautiful sister Vanna. The only person in the village who looks at Chani and doesn't see a monster. The only person she loves and trusts. Now 17, Vanna is to be married off in a vulgar contest that will enrich the coffers of the village leaders. Only Chani, who's had to rely on her strength and cunning all these years, can defend her sister against the cruelest of the suitors. But in doing so, she becomes the target of his wrath. Launching a grisly battle royale, a quest over land and sea, a romance between sworn enemies, and a choice that will strain Chani's heart to its breaking point. Set in the world of Six Crimson Cranes, this thrilling yet heart-wrenching fantasy explores the dark side of beauty and the deepest bonds of sisterhood. I love how that doesn't quite give anything away, but yes, this book is about Chani and her sister Vanna, and it really is a beautiful tale of the love between siblings, in particular these two sisters. It shows great friendship as well. So in terms of relationship representation, it was quite wholesome. There are very nasty people in here, but there are also some very close and beautiful bonds as well. As always with my book reviews, I will give you a spoiler alert if you haven't read this book and you want to skip spoilers with a time to skip to. But for now, let's get into my quotes from this book. Page 66. Ada sports a prosperous bulge in his belly. Now, that seems like an odd quote, I know, but I absolutely loved it because when I worked in China, I remember seeing a lot of older men with their t-shirts pulled up over their stomachs. And that's when I learned that in ancient China, it was seen as good to have a belly because it proved that you could afford food. So it was like a signal of pride that you could have this small belly. So I just loved the representation there, and it just took me back to my time in China. Page 82. If I was Vanna, I'd choose him. And then on the way to his kingdom, I'd drug him with a dose of Spindlebeard, steal his ship, and sail it to the far ends of Chipang, Agoria, where the lands are so vast that even destiny can be fooled. I love Chani, our protagonist, and I just love how that's what she would do. If you haven't seen, I've done a writing tips video on internal dialogue, and this is one of the quotes that I am talking about with that writing tips because it just fully and truly represents great internal thought. So thoughts that you can't say out loud, but that you have. Page 94. The first thing I do is hike up my skirt so I can move faster. One does not wear a dress while brawling with a dragon. I just love Chani. She's so cool. Page 186. He jerks away from me with a snarl. You have 7 arrows in your wings, 2 in your back and another in your thigh, I point out. You want to stay like that? You look like a pincushion. This is Chani talking to Hokusu, our demon dragon, and he's got a lot of arrows in him, and I just love how she's like, I want to help, but seriously, mate, you look like a pincushion, so let me take the arrows out. It's just great showing of her personality and their relationship together. Page 198. I'm no stranger to bad dreams, he says seriously. His voice comes out hoarse. If you want to talk about it, or about what happened on Bone Makers. It was nothing, I say again, more firmly than I mean to. I drop my shoulders then and I add softly, go back to sleep, you need it. Hokusu doesn't argue. He tips his head back into the sand and murmurs, just know you're not alone, Chani. My heart. That was just a really wholesome quote and shows a respectful and just good relationship, you know. It's a friend saying that they are there for them and saying you're not alone and that you don't have to talk, but if you want to, then they're there for you. And I just love that representation because this is a middle grade fantasy read. And obviously you learn by what you see and what is shown to you, which I believe I said in my June book versus the movie part 2 video. It does change how people act, and seeing someone act respectfully means that you're more likely to act respectfully in real life. It's one of the reasons I love the Heartstopper series is because it basically teaches you to be a good person. Page 203. It takes me over an hour to track down a clump hidden behind a fallen tree. I pluck as much as is respectful and tie the stalks together with a thin vine. Respect for the environment and not taking too much. Thank you. Elizabeth Lim, yes, this is just an important lesson. Don't take more than you need because the environment needs to have some to start with. Don't overtake. Page 206. I think of how often I curse by saying serpents of hell. I won't do it again. So Chani has learned the history of the snakes and how they were tricked and were therefore linked with the creation of demons in this world. And so the curse of serpents from hell is actually quite harmful. And I just like how our character realizes this and thinks about it and is like, oh, that is a slip and a slur and I will not do it again. Learning. Page 232. With a nod, he launches high into the air. His left wing is still broken, but with his right, he cuts a deadly arc through the sky. So on this quote, I presume he's jumping rather than flying if his left wing is broken? Bit of an error there, perhaps? Page 261. Serpents of hell. Varna shakes her head, refusing the blade. You still think Agma is coming for me. I love how the slur is repeated here, so you can see that it's just a general curse used by many, like the equivalent of saying shit or something here, but that it actually has, bad connotations linked with it. I like that. And it's something this book does quite often. It quotes itself, which makes it realistic in my opinion. Page 327. How about your favorite? About the moon goddess and her rabbits and cakes. This I just highlighted because it is the story by Sulin Tan. It is the daughter of the moon goddess, and I know fine well that Elizabeth Lim, on the back of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, Elizabeth Lim says, takes a beloved Chinese legend and reimagines it into a gorgeously spun romantic fantasy. So Elizabeth Lim has read this book and reviewed it. I love the relationship between authors and how she's basically sort of quoted the other to an extent. For me, that's how it feels anyway. I'm gonna say spoiler alert now. The next few quotes risk spoilers, so please skip to this time here if you don't want any spoilers. Spoiler alert. Page 349. He's holding my hand. Mine is small compared with his, but just as calloused, as rough and as strong. I love this because traditionally a romance, when they talk about the difference in hands, it's that the woman has really soft hands and the man has really calloused hands. All of this. And I just love how in this romance, Chani and Hokusu are equals and they are both fighters and they both have calloused hands. They're realistic. They're real people. And They're real people. One's a demon dragon and one's a serpent woman. But in terms of having calloused hands, they're real people, and I just really appreciate that in this. I mean, I'm someone who does have calloused hands from working a manual job. I'm also a musician. I have calloused fingers from playing guitar. I just like that. Because I remember, so when I got engaged, one of the things I said is, oh, I can't take, one of those engagement wedding pictures of the hands and the rings because my hands are so fat and square and just callousy. And one of my friends pointed out that that's not true and that they are hands and they're really nice hands. So I did take that picture and my hands do look fine. But, I was taught that. I learned that from somewhere, and I love my hands, and I'm okay with it. But I just liked how young people today, if they read Elizabeth Lim's work, are not going to learn that problem that I had. So on page 367, we have a quote from the book itself again, and as I've said before, I'm just really enjoying its re-quoting itself. Page 387, cry as much as you need, but don't despair. Yes. This is Chani's best friend, the snake, telling her, to cry, and it's okay, absolutely okay to cry, to let it out, but don't fall into despair. Again, just really wholesome relationships. And my final quote is page 414. Here he says, giving me the broken wooden bowl from my childhood home. He has repaired it, mending the cracks with molten gold. Mending something with gold is an Asian tradition and one that I absolutely love, and it's this idea that something that's broken is actually more beautiful because it is still there, and they mend things to be more beautiful than when they broke with gold. And the bowl that has been repaired is the bowl that Vanna would use to cover the light in her heart that would keep her awake. So this bowl meant a lot, and I love how he's fixed it with the gold so that it's even more beautiful now than it ever was before. And it links to the bowl of the 6 Crimson Cranes as well. Just saying. So I just love that. It's so beautiful. I can't remember. I learned about it in Japan, so I don't actually know what the Chinese name for mending in that way is, but it's just a really good cultural belief and something that I think the UK should really adopt because A, less wastage, and B, just the idea that something is more beautiful because it can break. Matt this morning was actually talking about a Buddhist teaching which was like that, and it was how you can have a favourite glass, but that because it's your favourite, you're going to use it again and again and again. And so eventually it will break. And that for that monk, the impermanency of that object makes it more beautiful. And A, that just teaches you that things are going to break and life isn't easy, and that you're going to have scars mentally, physically. Your home is going to be scarred. But it's those imperfections that actually make something good. So you shouldn't be striving always for perfection. You should be striving to enjoy things moment to moment. So enjoy that favourite glass whilst you have it and whilst it's whole. But then if something can be mended, you can keep enjoying it for even longer. Welcome back. If you're back from my spoiler-free zone, we will now go into my overall review of Her Raging Curse by Elizabeth Lim. Now, enjoyment, I gave this 10 out of 10. I read this probably within a week, as I always do with this kind of book. It was just really easy. It felt really wholesome. The relationships were really good, which after the last book I read, I really needed some good relationships. So I absolutely adored it for that reason. Writing style, 10 out of 10. For the age that it's written for, it is written so well. The internal dialogue, superb. Everything is shown, not told. I really enjoyed that. Plot, 10 out of 10. It has a definite goal, and the goal is instant. So I love that. And it also gives you the goal for the Dragon's Promise that I didn't know I needed until reading this one. World building, 10 out of 10. I love this world. And I mean, come on. It's got a map. Look at the map. Characterization, 10 out of 10. I knew the characters inside out. They all had great internal dialogue. They had great dialogue between each other as well. Representation, I want to say 10 out of 10. I might give it a 9 out of 10 just because everyone is mostly the same ability and things like that, but technically there's lots shown. It's just shown in a fantastical way. And originality, 10 out of 10. So I would give this book 5 stars. I really loved it. It does have reviews on the back. Stephanie Garber, who is the author of the Caraval series, I have a link above for my review on that. It says breathtaking storytelling. Kerry Manisalco, unputdownable. Chloe Gong, stunning. Adeline Grace, enchanting. And Axie O, exquisite. So there's lots lots of great reviews. I did really enjoy this book. And that's it for my book review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post my bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!